So Into the Spider-Verse and Black Panther won themselves some Oscars. Good for them. Black Panther didn't win Best Picture like I said it wouldn't, but that's okay. At least it got something. And now we can move on to the next big thing. Captain Marvel, which is scheduled to be released in... Really shit, only 9 days? Oh, I better buy tickets now. I still feel like this movie isn't the big deal that it really should be. I know it is for some people, but for me, I just forgot when it was coming out. And I know the release dates for Shazam, Endgame, and Hellboy by heart. Now, to the film's credit, the promotional material has gotten a lot better since my January video where I turned the comments section into a dumpster fire. The trailers have been showing off more of Carol Danvers' personality, we're getting more glimpses of the weird space stuff, and we got that trailer where she makes this face. I guess I just feel that they should be making this movie more of a big deal because the comic that it's based on, the Kelly Sue Deconnick run of Captain Marvel, was a very big deal. It was one of the best comics Marvel was putting out at the time, and it cemented Carol's place as an A-list Marvel superhero, a place she deserved to be after years of being a second-string character. Carol Danvers, the character, has been around since the 1960s, created to be a side character in the original Captain Marvel comics. But here, she wasn't a superhero. She didn't have any superpowers to speak of. Her initial introduction was that she was an Air Force officer who was friends with the original Captain Marvel. That's it. Just a human pal to the superhero. Basically, a non-romantic Lois Lane. She wouldn't actually get superpowers until almost 10 years later when she was reintroduced as Ms. Marvel. Here, it was retconned so that an explosion she was involved in during the original run that injured her actually gave her the abilities of Captain Marvel, turning her into a human-Kree hybrid. And once she became Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers would remain Ms. Marvel for pretty much the rest of her comic book career, if you excuse that weird bit in the 90s where she was binary. But in 2012, writer Kelly Sue Deconnick was tasked with reinventing Carol Danvers yet again, this time for the 21st century. However, she didn't do another standard Ms. Marvel book. This time, Deconnick, along with artist Dexter Soy, promoted her from Ms. Marvel to Captain Marvel. And they took this long-standing character in bold new directions. They took her, dare I say, higher, further, and faster than ever before. The character was still a strong woman with strong feminist overtones to her, but Deconnick gave her this drive to constantly try and prove herself, to show to the world that she's just as good as everybody else, if not better. There's this one quote I love from Kelly Sue Deconnick that I think really defines the character of Carol Danvers, especially under her work. Carol falls down all the time, but she always gets back up. We say that about Captain America, but Captain America gets up because it's the right thing to do. Carol gets back up because f*** you. It's that defining character trait that not only won me over when I first read this series, but I think won a lot of people over. That whole idea of never give up, you can do better, is something male or female, anybody can relate to. But having a good character trait is one thing. Is that enough to drive an entire comic book series on? Well, hell yeah, it was. Between 2012 and 2015, Deconnick wrote 32 issues of Captain Marvel across 2 volumes and worked with some top-notch artists like Dexter Soy, Emma Rios, David Lopez, and many others. Each issue of Deconnick's run painted Carol Danvers as the ultimate underdog despite being possibly the most powerful character in the entire Marvel Universe. She would constantly find herself in situations that would seem all but hopeless, but through sheer will and determination, god damn it, would she succeed or you'll be sorry. I mean, just listen to the back of the book synopsis from her first trade, In Pursuit of Flight. Carol Danvers is back, taking on the storied mantle of Captain Marvel and trying to live up to the legacy of her fallen predecessor. But the alien warrior Mar-Vell isn't the only specter rising from Carol's past to challenge her mettle. Carol mourns the loss of her heroine, legendary female pilot Helen Cobb, but when she accidentally travels through time, she'll come face to face with the woman who inspired her military career. Plus, Captain Marvel leads the all-female Banshee Squadron into battle against the mysterious Prowler war machines and uncover the truth behind NASA's Mercury 13 training program in a wild ride that may change the course of history. And it really is a wild ride. It's fun, it's exciting, and yet it still manages to be so very personal to the heart of Carol Danvers. Now, admittedly, Deconnick's first story arc isn't really the big epic story you would think Marvel would want to introduce, or rather reintroduce, a character like Captain Marvel. It's a great story. I mean, again, time travel and war machines, but it's not on the same scale as something like, say, Green Lantern Rebirth. Instead, the story was actually much more introspective, more about Carol Danvers the person, and less about the myth-making of Captain Marvel. And I think that helped a lot. I think it helped to get people invested in Carol on a personal level before they invested into the idea of Captain Marvel, this supreme being superhero. But I think ultimately what made Carol Danvers work as Captain Marvel was the idea of Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel. Again, this was a character that had been around for years, and while she had flirted with A-list status, she could never break through the glass ceiling, so to speak, until she got this promotion. It's not like she was a nothing character. She was popular with fans and creators, but she could never break through and be on the same level as, say, Spider-Man or even Thor or Iron Man. And also too, there were several other Captain Marvels before Carol took over, and with the possible exception of the original, none of them really made any sort of lasting impact like Carol did. I mean, if we're being honest, they all really felt like placeholders so that Marvel can keep the trademark to the title, Captain Marvel. You know, gotta keep it away from the other guys. But Carol Danvers becoming Captain Marvel after years of being Ms. Marvel is kind of the perfect storm. In a way, it's very similar to what happened to Dick Grayson. Here's a character who started off as a sidekick in the shadows of a bigger, more important hero, before evolving over time until finally digivolving into Nightwing, and eventually becoming Batman for a spell. The idea of comic book characters growing and evolving over time is very rare, especially in superhero comics. The mandate typically is to always maintain the status quo. It's very rare that we see a change like this actually stick, and I think that appeals to a lot of people, this idea that a character that you've been following for a very long time can change and evolve into something else, something that a real person does, something that you might have done while reading these characters. Also, Marvel Comics doesn't really have a Wonder Woman. They don't have an iconic female superhero that is on par with their top tier male heroes, and I think Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel was a great remedy for this situation. They have a lot of female superheroes, many of them on the X-Men, but they don't necessarily have a premier female superhero the way they have a premier black superhero like Black Panther. Also, Marvel didn't own the film rights to the X-Men for a very long time, so if they were ever going to make a female-led superhero movie, they kind of needed their own Wonder Woman to do that. Carol Danvers as Ms. Marvel was almost that character. She was strong, confident, independent. She led the Avengers on a couple of missions, but her lower level status on the totem pole combined with a lack of truly iconic storylines really didn't do a lot to elevate her in the public eye. I mean, her most iconic story up until this point was the time she gave birth to her eventual rapist. Avengers 200, look it up, it's very infamous. Carol Danvers as Captain Marvel, on the other hand, finally pushed her over the edge to become the premier female superhero of Marvel Comics. It finally gave the publisher a female superhero that can come even remotely close to standing toe-to-toe with Wonder Woman in terms of iconic female superhero status. Now, to be clear, when I say comes close, Captain Marvel is here and Wonder Woman is like here, but this is as close as anyone has gotten in a long time. But actually, if you think about it, Captain Marvel is the perfect counterbalance to Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is perfect, Captain Marvel is imperfect. Wonder Woman is who you could aspire to be, but Captain Marvel is who you are. It's actually the perfect reflection of the old Marvel DC character dynamic. And it's all thanks to Kelly Sue Deconnick. Her brief run on the series was the first time the character had gotten the proper reinvention. Not just Carol Danvers, but the concept of Captain Marvel as a whole. It finally became a worthwhile title to read. Ever since Deconnick left the series in 2015, the character never reached the same heights as she did during Deconnick's run. Other writers would try, but it just didn't feel the same. Nothing was really as fresh or exciting as it was during those 32 issues. It didn't help that during Civil War II, They pretty much made Captain Marvel the antagonist of the whole story, throwing out the great underdog narrative that Deconnick worked so hard to put into the character of Carol Danvers. But it does seem like the character is in a better place now. Her current ongoing solo series is being written by the excellent Kelly Thompson, and is all about Carol Danvers reconnecting with people in her life, getting back to the more personal stories that made the character so popular to begin with. But if you do need a great introduction to the character, especially before the movie comes out, I can't recommend Deconnick's work enough. It's short but effective. She does more in 32 issues than a lot of writers can manage to do in 100. And even if you can't connect with Carol Danvers on a personal level, there is still some fun and exciting superhero adventures in these issues. I mean, she fights dinosaurs at one point. How can you say no to that? Have you read Kelly Sue Deconnick's run on Captain Marvel? What did you think of it? Did you enjoy any other Carol Danvers Captain Marvel stories, or do you recommend any Ms. Marvel Captain Marvel stories? Let me know down below or anywhere on the internet. I will have Amazon links in the description below to all of Kelly Sue Deconnick's Captain Marvel work. You can buy it now and get it in time for the movie, and you'd probably be done reading all 32 issues before the movie came out, so you know what you're getting yourself into. Hopefully the movie really sticks close to Deconnick's work. I think they are. Of course, don't forget to check out Wulff Apparel, and don't forget that we have new videos every Tuesday and Wednesday, with Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern being Wulff Live. So subscribe to see all of that, like this video, and share it with a friend who maybe doesn't understand why Captain Marvel is supposed to be a big deal. She really is. It's just a shame that the marketing hasn't done a better job showing that. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.